Okay, sorry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 116 Interfaith and Discussion. We are going to read the writings which Siva has provided. First we do the honoring the custodians of the land, and then readings, and then I will introduce Dr. Afsun Fanayan to tonight's program. All right, we start with the song.
You're honoring the indigenous people.
Yeah, you honor it.
Well, friends, I live in Australia and in a small suburb called Burwood. Australia was traditionally owned by indigenous people for more than 60,000 years. So they lived here. They have a special connection with this land. They call it a sovereignty that is of spiritual nature. So we acknowledge and pay respect to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation we call Australia, and the continuation of cultural, spiritual, and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes were the first sovereign nations of the Australian continent. The Gadigal of the Eora Nation are the traditional custodians of this place we now call Sydney, and Wangal people are traditional owners of Burwood, where I live. Thank you. Custodians of this place we now call Sydney, and Wangal people are traditional owners of Burwood, where I live.
Together, the heart, joining the chord, all the souls, joining the chord, all the souls. Oh Lord, make these faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Together, the heart, unite and bind. Together, the heart, joining the chord, all the souls, joining the chord, all the souls. Oh Lord, make these faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Unite and bind. Together, the hearts, unite and bind. Together, Join the chord, all the souls. Oh Lord, make His faces radiant through the light of Thy oneness. Unite. And mind together. Join the chord, all the souls. Joining the chord, all the souls. Oh Lord, make His faces radiant through the light of Thy oneness.
O thou, kind Lord, O thou who art generous and merciful, we are the servants of thy threshold and are gathered beneath the sheltering shadow of thy divine unity. The sun of thy mercy is shining upon all, and the clouds of thy bounty shower upon all. Thy gifts encompass all, thy loving providence sustains all, thy protection overshadows all, and the glances of thy favour are cast upon all. O Lord, grant thine infinite bestowals, and let the light of thy guidance shine. Illumine the eyes, gladden the hearts with abiding joy, confer a new spirit upon all people, and bestow upon them eternal life. Unlock the gates of true understanding, and let the light of faith shine resplendent. Gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty, and cause them to unite in harmony, so that they may become as the rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and as the fruit of one tree. May they drink from the same fountain, may they be refreshed by the same breeze, may they receive illumination from the same source of light. Thou art the giver, the merciful, the omnipotent.
When once a man can see that all the diversity of contingent beings abides in one alone, and from that alone they radiate, then to Brahman he attains. Bhagavad Gita. Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. Old Testament Psalms. Ye have heard that it had been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do not do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. New Testament, Matthew, verse 5. The purpose for which mortal men have from utter nothingness stepped into the realm of being is that they may work for the betterment of the world and live together in concord and harmony. Baha'u'llah.
Please unmute.
And hold fast altogether by the rope which God stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves. And remember, with gratitude, God's favor on you. For ye were enemies, and he joined your hearts in love, so that by his grace ye become brethren. And ye were on the brink of the pit of fire, and he saved you from it. Thus doth God make his signs clear to you, that ye may be guided. Be not like those who are divided amongst themselves and fall into disputations after receiving clear signs. The Holy Quran.
Be united, speak in harmony, let our minds apprehend alike. Common be your prayer, common be the end of your assembly, common be your resolution, common be your deliberations, alike be your feelings, unified be your hearts, common be your intentions, perfect be your unity. Hinduism, Rig Veda.
It is incumbent upon every man in this day to hold fast unto whatsoever will promote the interest and exalt the station of all nations and just government. To each and every one of the verses which the pen of the Most High has revealed, the doors of love and unity have been unlocked and flung open to the face of men. We have erewhile declared, and our word is the truth. Quote, consort with the followers of all religions in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. Unquote. Whatsoever hath led the children of men to shun one another and hath caused dissension and division amongst them, hath, through the revelation of this word, been nullified and abolished from the heaven of God's will, and for the purpose of ennobling the world of beings, and of elevating the minds and souls of men, has been sent down, that which is the most effective instrument for the education of the whole human race. Of all it has been revealed, quote, love of one's country is an element to the faith of God, unquote. The tongue of grandeur has, however, in the day of his manifestation proclaimed, quote, it is not his to boast who loveth his country, but it is his who loveth the world. Baha'u'llah Gleaning, pages 94-95.
The purpose of the one true God, exalted be his glory, in revealing himself unto men, is to lay bare those gems that lie hidden within the mind of the true and inmost selves, that the diverse communions of the earth and the manifold systems of religious belief should never be allowed to foster the feelings of animosity among men, is in this day of the essence of the faith of God and his religion. These principles and laws, these firmly established and mighty systems, have proceeded from one source and are the rays of one light. That they differ one from another is to be attributed to the varying requirements of the ages in which they were promulgated.
O children of men, know ye not why we created you all from the same dust, that no one should exalt himself over the other? Ponder at all times in your hearts how you were created. Since we have created you all from the same substance, it is incumbent on you to be even as one soul, to walk with the same feet, eat with the same mouth, and dwell in the same land. That from your inmost being, by your deeds and actions, the signs of oneness and the essence of detachment may be made manifest. Such is my counsel to you. O concourse of light, heed ye this counsel, that ye may obtain the fruit of holiness from the tree of wondrous glory. Baha'u'llah.
We work and pray for the unity of mankind, that all the races of the earth may become one race, all the countries one country, and that all hearts may beat as one heart, working together for perfect unity and brotherhood. Praise be to God that our efforts are sincere and that our hearts are turned to the kingdom. Our greatest longing is that the truth may be established in the world, and in this hope we draw near to one another in love and affection. Each and all are wholehearted and selfless, willing to sacrifice all personal ambition to the grand ideal towards which they strive, brotherly love and peace and union amongst men. Abdul Baha. Thank you.
The sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? I see a man dying, crawling through the desert, struggling to survive. He was praying to God to deliver him from his thirst, and begging not to die. The sweetest water in the world,
Sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world,
sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? I see the world crying, drowning in a sea of dust, needing love to quench its thirst, searching for answers, searching to understand. Yet things are getting worse. We're looking for the sweetest water in the world,
sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world,
sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? I see the blessed beauty standing with outstretched arms, a look of love in his eyes, and flowing from his hands like crystal mountain springs, the pure water of life. He's got the sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world,
sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? Why don't we drink it? The sweetest water in the world,
sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world,
sweetest water in the world,
the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? The sweetest water in the world,
sweetest water.
sweetest water in the world.
Thank you very much to our readers. And now I invite Dr. Afsun Panayan to give a talk about education and the role of education in bringing peace and harmony and unity to the world. And I know that she has been in this field for so long. I mean, not very long. You look very young. And I would like you to talk. Doctor started her study in Iran and teaching. I liked the part that she was helping housewives to learn about computer science or computer to go back to work. And this is, I think, very beautiful to do that, to help people to go back to what they like to do. And also, working with junior youth empowerment and education for peace, and then going to Malaysia to see the multiculturalism in there, and then continue with her teaching and learning. And I would like to invite Dr. Afsun to talk a little bit about herself also. I didn't introduce much. I would like to ask you, or if you could tell which part of your, the way your journey, you have been going through this journey, which part did you like more, or a bit about Iran and how was the education part in there, and then Malaysia. Please welcome and thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ohre. I'm honored to be here. I will keep it short and simple. So I started my journey through education from Iran. And then it led me somehow to Malaysia. And then it was a Malaysian boy who I fell in love with and caused me to end up here in Malaysia for quite a while now. So yes, we got married and I settled in Malaysia together with my husband and my 7-year-old son. I have been teaching at schools and doing my research as well here in Malaysia. I am enchanted by the multiculturalism of Malaysian community. My research also is still about multiculturalism, and I believe that Malaysian multiculturalism is very unique compared to what is represented in the literature of multiculturalism around the world, which is mostly represented at different types, like in US and Canada, Canadian multiculturalism. Then we have European types of multiculturalism. They do have their own names, of course. I don't want to get into the details of that. But the way Malaysians approach multiculturalism is very unique in the sense that they keep their own racial identity, yet they have their national identity as well. And it's quite unique in the sense that you will, if you ask them, so, what's your background or who are you? Or you ask them to introduce themselves. One of the first things that they will use to introduce themselves would be that I am a Chinese Malaysian, or I am an Indian Malaysian, I'm a Malay Malaysian. And this is something you don't normally hear in Europe, or, for example, in Canada. You won't hear, I'm, for example, a Chinese American, or I'm an African Indian Malaysian. You won't hear that. This doesn't come one of the first things that get through introduction. So this is just an example of how unique Malaysian multiculturalism is, and it has a lot of room to be studied, and it gives us a lot of insight into the concept of multiculturalism because of this unique aspect of it. Okay, I think we should start now, judging based on the smile on everybody's face. The thing I do the most and I love the most is teaching, because I'm a teacher. So if any part of it sound like very teachery, please do excuse me. It's occupational hazard. I'm going to share a screen if I'm allowed to. I guess
Yes.
can see I'm allowed to, yeah. A PowerPoint presentation that I have prepared. Okay, are you seeing the right screen?
And
You can see
but
it.
it's very small.
No, you have to go into the top settings and
Okay,
check.
yes, all right, sub display. Now, do you see the right screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I did go into the philosophy of unity a little bit, and the conceptual part of how do you design a teaching method, the concept design. But I decided to, or I prefer to keep it more hands-on and more practical. So very quickly, those slides will end, and we will start talking in more details, like what exactly we can do as a mother or as a neighbor or as a grandfather to teach unity in our daily lives. So I hope you will bear with me through the philosophical part of the slides, and we will get into more practical parts as well. At any point, if you have any question or if it's not clear or if I'm cutting off and on, please do point out so I can adjust. Let me just read the first slide, the role of education in creating and sustaining unity. So the philosophy of this talk that I'm having starts from the Baha'i philosophy of education, which one of the most maybe famous quotations in this regard is Baha'u'llah's quotation on education, regard men as a mind rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasure and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. Based on this philosophical point of view, a lot of ideas in the talk that I have will be rooted in this quotation. For example, a mind rich of gem tells us the way we look into the concept of unity. So there are methods, there are different ideologies or different philosophies of educational philosophies into looking into children. For example, in one point of view, the children are blank pieces of papers. So we teach them anything. There are education specialists who would claim that you can give me a child and tell me what you want me to do to make of him, and I will give you, for example, a scientist or a musician or whatever that you desire. So that comes from the philosophy of that every human being is a blank sheet of paper. So the educator's job is to mold that and write down whatever needed to be educated. However, that's not the case with this philosophy. Every human being is endowed with capacities, and these capacities are hidden. They are not surface. Is another point of view, another philosophical aspect of it is that if you let the kids or the children be in the nature, they will not grow to become successful people on their own. There is again other philosophies who claim otherwise, and they say that because the nature is all good and there's good in nature, if you let a child be in the wild, they will grow to become honest and kind and harmonious with the nature. How animals are like quite harmonious and they don't do the ferocious act that human beings do. However, according to this quotation, the philosophy that I have adopted believes that that's not the case. If not educated, if left alone, a child has a tendency to go into the dark side, if you're a fan of Star Wars. So education is needed to reveal this gem, which are hidden. So we have the capacity and we need an educator to bring those capacity out of this minds of the hearts of the children. There is another point in this quote that is important, and that's education alone is that the importance of this education, and nothing else can do that. Not politics, not medication, not any other system, but education is the only key to build these capacities, extract them, and then for what purpose? Again, from the same quotation, we get that philosophical part as well. The purpose of education that I'm presenting today is to enable mankind to be benefited therefrom. It is not for your own good. I'm doing this for your own good. No, I'm teaching you, if I do, so that whatever is hidden in you, whatever capacity is there in you as my student, will there be extracted, and then the whole mankind will be benefited from. This short quotation, however deep, very deep, is the basic of my assumption of education that I have taken, and so does a lot of other people. If you disagree, maybe this is the easiest way to put it. If you still believe that education is not so necessary to create unity, then maybe you have never left two toddlers alone with a bunch of toys. If you have that experience, you would know that naturally it doesn't happen that the two toddlers grow fond of each other and they share and they show love and care. It doesn't normally happen naturally. If a mother would say that, oh, actually, but however, my kids were actually from the beginning, they were very kind and sweet with each other. The reason is because you have started educating them from very young age. Sometimes from before the second child was born, you were training already the first child how she or he has to treat the baby brother or the baby sister, because you have already trained them. So that's why you see a beautiful, relationship connection between the toddlers. If that education is missing, what you see is normally what we all experience when we leave toddlers together with their toys. If you are not yet convinced, the same thing happens with teenagers. As a teacher at school who deal with young adults, youth and junior youth, I can tell that if a classroom, especially if it's new, the classroom is new and the students are just introduced together, if it's been left alone and not dealt with, a lot of competitiveness, a lot of jealousy will actually sneak in. There is a strong need for teamwork, team building, and training for them to learn how to be inclusive of people, especially if there is a person in the class which is different from others in one way or the other. I hope you're convinced by now that we do need some form of education to get the unity up and going. Yes. So I'm going to skip. There is actually quite a rich data available and literature available on definition of unity, but I'm going to skip that because that will get us into a very philosophical point of view again. And I'm going to assume that each one of us who are here for this purpose have quite an in-depth understanding of what unity is, even though it might not be exactly the same as each other, but we do have that understanding. So I'm going to spare us from just defining what unity is. Unity can be, so far we decided that unity need to be educated, need to be trained, and we need education for that. It can be taught in a formal way in classrooms and in informal ways, for example, in the house. So I'm going to cover both what we can do in the classroom setting, as in how do we develop syllabus, or in a smaller class, you may have it in your neighborhood, a class for the children of your neighborhood, how you can help them. And also as a parent, as an uncle, as a grandparent, in a smaller setting, in a family setting, how we can teach unity in from different angles. Then obviously unity can be trained, or people, different groups of protagonists can be educated and be benefited from the teachings of the unity, including individuals, communities, and organization. You can teach organization how to be united. For example, if you consider school an organization, that's also a very important job of a counselor, for example, to teach or to help the school to learn how to work, different parts of the school, to learn how to work in unity with each other. In any organization, actually, team building or working together is a part of the HR actually program trying to teach how to be more united. So it also includes political parties, which we see very little unity in that most of the time. Same goes with community. For example, family can be a unit of community, or a neighborhood, how we can teach unity to a neighborhood, which, for example, have some issues. Some neighbors have issues with each other. It is a tolerable matter, yes, and there are programs that can help neighbors be more united. And obviously individuals, which will be the main topic of today's talk. I did promise I'm not going to give definition, but we need to have a little bit of understanding of what related concepts are there to unity. For example, harmony, oneness, multiculturalism, peace, world citizenship. These are the concepts that are very similar to the concept of unity, and we can sometimes use them even interchangeably in some aspects, in some areas. What we don't mean by unity is not conformity. It's like we don't mean that people should look alike each other. They should behave similar to each other in order to be united. No, we believe in unity in diversity. We can be different and yet united. Unity also is not teamwork, because at least I can argue it this way, that teamwork, you can actually hate your coworker and do a perfect teamwork with that person because you have a common goal. And the moment you step out of your work, you can curse that person or say things. That is not unity. We don't see that as unity. However, it can appear as teamwork. So there is some distinction between that. However, it's an arguable, again, definition of words. And on enmity, it's like just the fact that we are not enemies is not enough for us to be united. The fact that we are not fighting, the fact that we are living parallel lives is not unity. We need something way more than that to call that a unity. I hope we are kind of agreeing with this concept when we're moving forward. However, again, I'm open to a discussion if you disagree with that. Now, let me go to the education part. Now, we talk about unity. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about education. This is the part I'm excited to talk about the most, because we're going to build on this idea and then come up with some plans of action for ourselves. Normally in education, when you teach a concept, the concept is you teach it in three aspects. You target it in three different ways. You teach about the knowledge about that concept, awareness and attitude, which is the emotional part of it, and the skills. Let me give you an example. For example, you want to teach the concept of healthy living. The knowledge is you have to know what is healthy living, what is healthy, what is unhealthy, foods that are healthy, foods that are not unhealthy, behavior that are unhealthy. The awareness and the attitude are, you have to create an attitude that makes the person want to be. It's like the motivational part, the emotional part, want to be healthy. So for example, you show them a guy or a girl who live a very healthy life and how happy they are and how fruitful their life is for the community. And then, or you show the exact opposite of a person who is really sick and they can't do much and they need help from others, and this sickness didn't come to them unexpectedly, they actually cause this to themselves. Or for example, you want to say that smoking is an unhealthy habit. You can show the teeth of a smoker versus the teeth of a non-smoker. So you're building that emotion, so that awareness, the attitude. And then the skill, obviously, so maybe we can teach them some cooking skills, some basic cooking skill that help them, or calorie counting if they have to do, or some exercises, right way of doing exercise. This is the skill. And together, these three will help whoever you're teaching, your students, learn the concept of healthy living. This is how we teach a concept. Something more familiar, if you have not ever teach concepts of that, is sharing. Sharing is a concept, and it is relevant to unity somehow. At least it's something we need for unity. And yeah, if you have ever had a class of toddlers, or you have your kids, or the cousins get together to do some drawing, you got to teach them how to share color pencils. The knowledge of this sharing is important. So you tell them, we need to share in order to be able to finish this drawing. And then the feeling that goes with it is that if you keep the pencils with yourself, your brother can't paint or color. And you also add to that, look how sad he is. So you're building emotions, teaching her how has her action caused sadness to others. What's the reaction to what she did? So that's the emotional part. And then you teach them some skills. For example, you can hold on to one, don't hold two pencils at the same time, hold on to one. Once you're done, put it back. So these are the things that I believe a lot of us naturally do without knowing that we are actually using this triangle. We give the information, the knowledge part, we build emotions around it, awareness, feelings, and then we give them some skill. We teach them some skills on how to do a simple task of sharing color pencils. So we're getting a bit closer to the concept of unity. I hope you're getting excited about it. Speaking of motivation, I think that may be the first or maybe most important. It's the entry to the topic of how do you teach unity? How do you motivate? Anything at all, per se, but unity, of course. But we have two settings, and because I did teach in both settings, I chosen this as two parallel settings. You can sometimes crisscross between the methods, but most of the times I notice there is a difference between when you're teaching in a religious setting and when you are teaching in non-religious settings. In a religious setting where your students come from a religious background, they do have this concept of God, and most of them do have this feeling that in order to attain to God's good pleasure, you want to do this. So why do you do something which is moral? Why do you act morally? Or why do you do something that is good and you avoid the bad? So the first thing is to attain to God's good pleasure, so that we get God's love and we obey him in order to obey him. And the fear that we may get deprived from his love and his grace. These are just some examples. In these settings, all you have to do as a teacher, as an educator, is to make sure the connection between the heart of your student and God is strong and it's going stronger. And the rest of the things will be just adjusted accordingly. And so you can introduce any concept and motivate your students by the fact that God wants us to do this. And if you love God, then we do this because of the love that we have for God. So that is an easy way of motivating, and it works wonders. However, not in all settings this is applicable. So there are non-religious settings where your students come from different religious backgrounds, or they come from backgrounds they don't even believe in a purposeful creation. So there are other ways to motivate them for doing good, any good, whether unity or any other moral concept. For example, the concept, the idea that we are sitting in the same boat. So if you dig a hole where you're sitting, the whole boat will go down. If someone else is digging a hole where they are sitting, we all in it together and the whole world will go down. So it's, okay, I'm not going to explain what is the educational background of this. Later, I'm going to ask you to suggest, based on what theory is this a workable, doable action. Or, for example, Kohlberg has a moral theory of reasoning. He has like these stages. Later, I will introduce it to you. For example, this concept, the golden concept, that you must treat others the way you want to be treated. Very easily, normally mothers use that a lot. How would you feel if someone pulled your hair? And immediately the kids, toddlers are capable of understanding, yeah, that doesn't feel good. And so they stop doing it. As they grow older, and then the ability to justify things grow, conceptually they grow, cognitively they grow better, they can understand the concept of social justice for the sake of social justice, because there is a feeling that we want to be just and we want our community to be just. So for social justice, I will do this or I will not do that. The concept of oneness of mankind, because we are all the same. And for the betterment of the world, if we want a better world, then we got to do this. We got to avoid that. So as you see, it goes deeper and deeper by the way of understanding the concepts. Talking about Kohlberg, these are the stages that he introduced and can be very well used. If you think it's like a bit conceptual, I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to ask you to help us. Look at the first stage, avoiding punishment. All of these, that motivational point that I mentioned, can be used in stage 1, in stage 2, in stage 3, stage 4, 5 and 6, maybe a little bit less, but most of them can be used in all the stages. Look at, for example, at the fact that we are in this boat all together. It's a stage 1, avoid drowning inside this boat. We don't want to dig a hole. We don't want the boat to go down. So don't do something bad. Then the whole community will gonna get, corrupted, and we're gonna sink all together. So that's the stage 1, actually, because we want to naturally avoid punishment. And even toddlers understand that. And then stage 2, for example, aiming at reward. If we want this boat to arrive at its destination, then we want to take care of it. So pointing to a reward, something good to attain. Stage 3, I want to be a good person. I want to be a good citizen. It feels good to be a good person. So I'm going to take care of the boat, not doing anything nasty to it because I'm a good person. Stage 4, loyalty and law. Because the law of being on this boat said you cannot dig a hole, I will not dig a hole. Stage 5 and 6 are a bit more deeper. I'm going to go to the concept I talked about earlier, betterment, for example, of the world. Because of justice and because of this is a universal principle, I want the world to be a better world, so I do good. Okay, I can tell I talked a lot and too fast. I'm going to pause my sharing here, go back to this and ask you to, if you can think of a way of motivating, let's have a target teenage. Let's have a target of maybe a 15-year-old. How would you motivate a 15-year-old to do the right thing? I would suggest you write in the chat box with a sentence or two, not more than that. We just get to know the stages, and you can very well use it. And all of them are valid. Like you can tell them, if you smoke, you will have lung cancer. That's avoiding punishment, right? Or you can tell them, if you work hard, you will be successful. That's aiming a reward, right? So anything like that, these are all motivation. So thinking about the concept of unity, write in the chat box, and it can be any of these stages. How would you motivate a 15-year-old to be united with, for example, his classroom? How would you motivate a 15-year-old? There is no right and wrong to this question. You can answer it and we will just share it. I hope you know how to use the chat box in the Zoom. There is a chat box somewhere. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yes.
If you're using computer, the chat box appears on the bottom. If you're using phone or other gadgets, it might be at the side. Type in the chat box, how would you motivate a 15-year-old to practice unity? Again, there is no right and wrong answer. It's just a way, a method. Okay. You will gain insult if you do consultation. Nice. Yes, that is aiming at a reward. Yeah. Promise a reward and stick to your promise. Yes. Reward. Yes, this is stage 2. Nice. Make him or her work together on doing a good deed. Okay, I think that would aim at experiencing for yourself how good it feels when you work with others. I would say it was stage 3. It can be 2 or 3. When you make them do work together and feel good about it. You already have capacity within you to excel and you help others. Encouraging word are maybe stage 2 or 3. Telling them that you're a good girl or a good boy. Yeah, that's encouraging words. To gain more good friends, you should treat them kindly. Yes, stage 2, reward. How would you like to be treated by your peers? You treat them as you treated. Stage 1 and 2 is a mixture. Golden rule is a mixture of stage 1 and 2. Yes, that one is a mixture of stage 1 and 2. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone has a stage 5 or 6? Because they are 15-year-old, right? So the cognitive stage is deep enough at this age to go to stage 5 and 6, which are meant for adults, according to Piaget, actually. To undertake a classroom project, one has to work together. The importance, maybe it's like a principle, maybe stage 6, right? The principle of this, in order for this to work, we need to work together, maybe, yeah? Maybe it's the spirit, maybe stage 5 or 6. Yeah. To be fair to others. Yeah. Yes, it's the principle of ethics. Like it's fairness is a universal principle for the sake of fairness. Motivate with utmost love and kind words, and at the level of his capacity, be the example of your advice. Beautiful. We actually have a full slide on how to role model. I'll wait for that. Yes, it's nice. Share with them the concept of interdependence as a sign of maturity. Yes, I think if we're talking about interdependence, maybe you're talking about the concept of justice. Yeah, so maybe stage 5. You can drag it to stage 5. Yes, nice, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing and participating. If you still have more to share, you may do so. However, for the interest of time, I'm going to continue. And we do have another part for us to share as well. So let's get back into skills. Now remember, knowledge, attitude, and skill. So the first part, the motivation, is the knowledge and the awareness, the feeling of it. So for example, someone mentioned beautifully that we get them to work together so that they experience how good it feels. That's the emotional part. You're building the positive emotions towards unity. Once they have this, they are motivated. So that's the emotional part. Or those of you who suggested we tell them, if you consult with your parents, you will gain from it. If you consult, you will gain from it. The things that the information that we share with them are the knowledge part. So we have already covered knowledge and attitude, or the emotional part of it. Here comes the skill. Some of the skill that I have shared here, but then definitely not all of it that is needed, is, for example, handling conflict. If we know how to handle conflict, we obviously will get a step closer to the unity, or we can sustain it better. Making fair judgments, it's a skill to be able to make fair judgments, to see the situation from the point of view of other people. There are actually numerous activities meant to teach youth and even adults how to see a situation from other people's point of view. That's a part of making fair judgments. Anger management, obviously something that will ruin unity, is that out of anger we do something and then we regret it, but it doesn't make much difference because the damage has been done. And of course, someone mentioned, I think more than one person mentioned, consultation. Yes, it's a skill, definitely. It's also a concept, but there's also a skill part to it. And once we teach them to youth or to even adults, they will be better in making unities more sustainable. Examples of handling conflicts are, not everything is here, but they're just some examples. Like, for example, wait 5 minutes before you respond. That includes messaging. So you have received a message, it just made you angry. Wait 5 minutes before you reply that message. That's a skill. And you practice it, become a habit, and then you will avoid a lot of conflict that could have otherwise ruined the unity. Use humor. We even say give examples of how. For example, someone give you a nasty feedback, and what you say, use humor. Thanks, bro. That hurt. Even such a simple humor can buy you some time to adjust that motion and then show a proper reaction that is not out of anger. And use a mediator. That's a skill very long forgotten. Most of the times we try to fix the problem ourselves, and because we're emotionally invested in it, we just get into conflict even more worse. So sometimes just ask another person to mediate between the two if you're in conflict, and that works wonders. These are just examples of skills that we teach in order to sustain unity. I'm gonna give you 2 examples that I personally used and it worked. For example, for anger management, I was teaching toddlers, 4 years old, and the concept I used for them was a Harry the Angry Balloon. It was a story of a balloon who was angry. So anything would happen to the balloon, I would blow a little bit more to it because he's getting angrier. And as he gets angrier and more things happen to him, the balloon gets bigger and bigger. And he doesn't know how to handle his anger. So eventually, you know what may happen, right? Eventually the balloon burst. We repeat the same story with the second Harry, the angry balloon. And this time I'm asking the toddlers, what shall he do? And they are coming with ideas. He should do this. Like one of the things we teach them for anger management is breathing techniques. So you breathe. So as we breathe, a little bit of air comes out of the balloon so it doesn't get. So next time he gets angry, then I blow the balloon, but then he breathes. And the balloon gets smaller. So every time he gets angry, there is still some room of getting bigger and smaller. So the end of the story, when Harry the angry balloon learned the breathing technique, he will not burst. So now we have Harry, the no more angry balloon, who didn't burst because he practiced breathing technique. So this is for 4 years old. And yes, we can teach them a skill. And yes, it's towards unity. And a skill teacher should be able to adjust this same concept into different levels at different ages, actually. For example, let's go to consultation. So I'm going to give you another example. How do we use skill for consultation for mature group of people, for adults? Actually, if you're familiar with the Baha'i Ruhi books, there is an institute for training. There is one full book 10, worth of about 30 to 40 hours of training and discussions, mainly talking about consultation, like how to consult and the concept of consultation. This book is a part of a series of building vibrant communities. So yes, there are books that are just meant to teach us one mere, what we call a skill, but actually a concept as important as consultation because it's so essential for unity. There is another method that I have used. In the picture does look like a childish picture, but I used it for my 14 years old students, where there is a puzzle and each participant get only a picture, a part of it. So you may only get the part of a giraffe, which looks like a leopard or some other animals. So you don't definitely know this is a giraffe. Or if you put the top head part of it, you will see some horns. You may think it's a cow. So different parts of giraffe, definitely giraffe is an animal to go for. Different parts of the giraffe looks like different animals. So the participants are not allowed to show their cards to other people. What they have to do is to consult and share, use the verb and words and vocabulary to consult. Now, after consultation, they should come up with this idea of what animals do they think it is. A very old story, remember the elephant in the dark room? It's same concept as that. However, what happened in my group was that I have a very quiet participant. She barely shared. And deliberately, I gave her the most important part of the puzzle, piece of the puzzle, and she didn't share. And then the rest of the group also goes on and they talk and they come up with the wrong animal because the most important piece was with the most quiet person. And that's exactly what happened in the community a lot of times. A person has an insight. She doesn't know how to share, and the community doesn't know how to get that information. And the community miss on that opportunity, and that person miss on helping the community. So this was such an interesting learning for us in that group, that how important it is for the group to pause and encourage every single member to share what they have to say. So it was a beautiful activity that we did with 14 years old, 13 actually. Activities can be designed based on knowledge, attitude, and skill, and they can even be more fun. I'm going to also introduce how to make a game based on this knowledge, attitude, and skill, and promote unity through a game. I can't take credit for this game. It's a very well-known, all over the internet game called The Web. So in this game, which you can target any age actually group. There is a bundle of ropes, right? The string. And we can choose teaching unity to any group of people. Suppose we are talking about unity and the level of family. So each participants will pretend to be a member of a family. For example, the grandfather. Once the grandfather hold on to the string, he will then make a knot around his own wrist and then toss the rest of the rope to another member of the family which he depends on. For example, the grandfather depends on the grandmother, or depends on the father or on the mother. So when the mother gets it, she will tie a knot around her wrist and throw it to, for example, her teenage daughter, which she depends on for doing chores. And then the teenage daughter depends on the father, help him with the homework. And each member of a family somehow or some way depend on each other. Now, after discussing the dependency, now we have a net, a web around our wrist. Now we talk about what will happen if the mother is overworked. Now we ask the mother, we push the mother away from the whole circle. What will happen to the rest of us? Because our wrists are tied with a knot. Now everybody's wrists get pulled. Why? So if the mother is overworked, if we don't do fair and just share of work and she get overworked, everybody else will get impacted. She will get sick, then the father have to take leave from work, then the grandfather can't do his daily things, then the daughter's school is impacted, then the toddler health is impacted. You see how the whole community is interrelated. We are teaching about interrelation. I think someone suggested that in the chat box earlier. True again, and we learn how painful it is for me when someone else that I'm related on is being overworked or neglected and hence being in trouble, then everybody is in trouble. So that's a game that we designed based on the concept of we all are interrelated in the community. And it can be done with whatever community you wish to target. It doesn't have to necessarily be game, it can be an activity. Now, I'm going to suggest everyone to type in the chat box something that will ruin unity. Now, there are always aspects that will help promote unity, and there are things that will disturb the harmony and just stop us or will not help us sustain the unity. Type in the chat box, it should be a one word or a phrase. What do you think would disturb unity? And we will use it as an example for this activity. Selfishness, beautiful. Backbiting, spot on. Fear, they say fear kills the love. Egoistic, yes, egoism, yes. Estrangement, nice. Excluding, dominating. Beautiful. Thank you for the sharings. Hatred, yes. So all these concepts, when we are teaching unity, we have to deal with these concepts as well. We are teaching them skills, remember? So we have to deal with this part. And how do we show that? This is targeted for 7-8 years old, this activity. What we can do is that sometimes one drop of one of these, hatred, one drop of being egoistic, one drop of fear, one drop of backbite will ruin the whole milk. And we actually bring milk to the class and we drop one, maybe 1 spoon, actually for me, 1 drop of lemon juice didn't work, so I had to pour the whole spoon of lemon juice, and rather within 2 or 3 minutes, the whole milk will go wrong, will go bad. So this is an example. It creates a very strong emotion among that age, especially because they will say, eek, oh, the milk, oh, it smells so bad. And you will give a lot of emotional reaction, which is exactly what you're targeting. Sometimes 1 drop of jealousy, 1 drop of backbiting is enough to damage the whole, glass of beautiful unity that you have created. You worked so hard, you created this unity, and this one thing damaged the whole community. So, okay, this is another activity that can be done when we are teaching unity and what may actually disturb unity. Okay, here we're going to talk about there are examples of very wholesome programs in the world that have dealt with really difficult situations. Now, sometimes you have a class full of beautiful, young adults. You're dealing with a lovely family. And sometimes, like this case study, it's not a case study, actually is an experimental learning process that this lady did. She had to go to a school, which some of you have seen this movie. The picture is from the movie based on this true story. She had to go to a school which was recently being integrated, where all gang members of different parts of the community which were really against each other, they will fight to death outside of the school, but then now they were put together inside the classroom, and she had to deal with that. So she had difficult time. She was a first-time teacher. Her name is Erin Gruwell, and they become famous with the name of Freedom Writers, this whole class, because she created a unity that was unprecedented between this group of people who would actually shoot each other to death outside of the school. One of the activities she did, and this picture represented it, is a line game. So what she did is she drew a line in the middle of the class. She asked them to stand apart, and then she started asking things like, how many of you have ever been shot at? How many of you have lost your friends to gang violence? How many of you have been arrested? How many of you has no one in the family who will support you? And things like questions that will actually are quite sensitive. And then the students who had positive answer to that will step forward to the line, and then they will go back, and then she will ask the next question. They will step forward to the line. The fact that they see for the first time that they are not the only one in this misery, that they share this misery with other people, with their once enemies, actually stop them, pause them for a while to see that they have their differences, but they have their similarities. And this game started a whole series of educational process started by this lady. Today, as we speak, after more than 20 years, the Freedom Writer Foundation is active. Some of these active members of the foundation are the same students trained for the first time by this lady, working throughout the world, creating unity and making change. So this is a real-world example of how an education system can actually bring about change. We talked about formal setting. I'm going to go faster, but I think I'm exceeding the time. I'm going to go into this informal setting of homes, inside the house. Definitely we practice win-win. If we practice win-lose, we learn the fact in order for us to win, someone else must lose. But if we practice the concept of win-win, like we come up with a solution that everybody gets something at least of what they want, the concept of win-win helps a lot with the unity. Justice within the family members, favorism kills the unity. We know that it's whether in the family, whether in the community, whether in a country. If a country pays more attention to one race compared to the other, the unity between those two races is damaged for good. Multicultural entertainment content, movies that are promoting racism, lyrics of the music that our kids listen to should also be promoting unity and not against it. We should monitor that, and that's important, the entertainment we choose for our kids. And most importantly, I think this is someone have also mentioned it very wisely, being a role model. There's sad news, or maybe a bit difficult, that we have to be a role model because it's not easy. As a teacher, it's easy to be a role model because I'm in the classroom, I wear my school, uniform and whatever. And the moment I come out, I switch off, and then I can be myself. I can drive crazy, and I can be the, kind of driver who curse everybody. But in school, of course, I'm the goody, right? So it's easy to be a role model teacher, but a role model mother is where all the challenges come in, because you can't turn off. But there's no turn on and off button for that. You're there 24/7, and your kids will actually see you. So that's the bad news. But the good news is there's actually a way to get away with being a role model when you are not yourself perfect, but you still can role model. That's the trick. Okay, so we talk about being a role model, right? So in what we are doing and how we are feeling, our awareness and our skills in the three levels. Of course, we have to gain knowledge. For example, things that happens in the world make us more knowledgeable about unity. Pandemic, for example, we learned that we are interconnected. We can't say, oh, that happened in another country. I don't care about that. We also can learn, increase our own knowledge as role models through a cycle of action, reflection, and consultation. The Baha'i Faith uses this cycle to generate knowledge. So every time we do some action, we reflect on it, and we do consultation. We reflect also in the quotations. And that's how we increase our knowledge together. Someone said we lost you. Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So the next one, sorry, I'm speeding up, is awareness. So we should be aware of our own biases. Sometimes we are aware because they are very obvious, but most of the times there is a hidden bias that we are not sure that it exists, or we didn't know it exists. I just want to introduce one tool. It's a test, and it's a very fun actually test. You have to quickly click on the correct answer on your phone. You can actually use your computer with it. It's the unconscious bias test. I choose the Australian website for it because I knew many of you are from Australia. There is an American website. It's basically everywhere in the world. There is a connection to this IAT test, which will help you find out your unconscious and hidden beliefs, if there is any. I personally took that test. Someone is saying, Yin Sam is saying that they can't hear me. Maybe I should suggest.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to her.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Rejoin. Maybe Yin must have touched some button or something.
Leave and rejoin. Sometimes Zoom does that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hope it works. All right, speeding up. So I suggest you take the test. If you don't know the name of it, all you have to go is for Diversity Australia, and the test is implicit. You just go for a bias test. It's a test to test yourself, bring yourself into awareness that you have some biases, because we live in a community full of biases. So we inherited some of it. So the more awareness we have, of course, we'll be better role models. Skills, and the most important part, okay, this is what I want to say. The good news is here. Now imagine I want to lose weight, and the role model I look is this Instagram model, perfectly curved girl, and she's only probably eating kale and drinking lemon water, I can tell. And by just looking at her, I'm demotivated already. I'm thinking that, okay, that's it. This life is not for me. I can't exercise every day. I'm a full-time mom working full-time as well. Like, how am I? Just, okay, that's it. I'm done. I will never going to be able to live a healthy life. However, if I look at my neighbor, and by the way, this is not a picture of my neighbor, it's just a picture, who recently go on this journey to stay healthier. So she's going jogging with her teenager, maybe she's on a healthier eating diet, and she's doing, like, she did some blood tests, and she learned a lot of things, and she's looking much more energetic, and she's looking much more better. Looking at her will motivate me so much more. And then she will share with me what she's doing and she's not. So what I'm saying here is that You don't need to be a perfect role model. Sometimes it's actually bad to be a perfect role model because it may not be very motivating. You need a perfect example, of course, to know where you're aiming at. But in order to get into the daily activity part of it, you need someone which is quite similar to you, just a little bit ahead of you. And that's the concept of mentor. You know, you don't need a teacher all the time. Sometimes accompaniment is all you need, like someone who is just similar, a little bit ahead. And that's exactly how we can role model for our kids. So we are not perfect. We are not their teachers. We're just someone who has been on this road of life a little bit longer than them. And we have made a fair share of mistakes. So we share it with them. I made that mistake. So sharing mistakes is a very important skill. When we share our mistake, oops, mommy used the bad word. I'm sure you have all experienced that. That's a moment of rage. You use a bad word which you should have used in front of the kids, and you immediately catch yourself in the act and you immediately apologize and say, oops, I used a bad word. I'm sorry. I was angry. I couldn't control myself. There and then you are being a great role model. So sometimes we make mistake and we bring it into, the picture. It's all right to make mistake. And sometimes we share with them our struggles. It's a perfect role model when they share their struggles with us. We share it with our kids or whoever that we are role modeling. Okay. With that being said, let's end today's talk with this list that I would hope that we all share in the chat box. Let's list down some skills that we can practice starting from today, maybe from this evening itself, to become the agents of change and foster unity. You may think about your workspace. You may think about your family. If you have neighborhood and they have kids, if you are going into a nursing home, for example, to do some service there among them, whichever your target community is. Let's list down some skills and you can just have few in the chat box, as many as you want. Something we can do right now, today, that foster bringing unity. Let's get started. I would write too. Nice, I'm gonna read. Listen and empathy. Consultation, yes. Share stories, lovely. Forgiving, definitely. I will talk with more kindness with the shopkeepers that make mistake. It's easy to be angry with the people who are in charge of something because they are being paid for it. So showing kindness to them if they make mistake is something I need to practice. Smile to everyone and greet. Nice. Stop sharing racially biased messages in the media. Yes, sometimes just clicking is a form of advocating for them. Yeah, sometimes not clicking on those will also help. Helping the needy. Yes. Offering help. Be sincere and faithful. Nice. Helping. Praying for the sick, with the sick. Thank you. Go for a walk with your neighbor or friend. Nice, lovely. I take what we write here as a promise that we do this, we practice this, so that this talk won't end in the knowledge level. And I hope that I did build some emotional aspect toward loving unity and how easy it is actually to teach it, but also let's put it into action. Remember the being and the doing. So let's have the doing part going. I'm going to end here. So if there's any questions or any comments, or there's like experiences that you would love to share, it would be great to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Afson. I really loved your talk because I feel that it's very practical and it's doable. Lots of I felt that all the virtues were all embedded in your talk. And oh, sorry for the shake of my computer screen, but we have Young having a question. Young, please.
Thank you for the lecture. My question is, you mentioned about you done the exercise from the Harvard University, I reckon. I done some business study with Harvard University of America. At the moment, America was perceived as a most divided nation, polarized nations. And so you also done some practice with, like you just show us about the gangs, how to teach them to promote unity in the gangs activity. Have you ever thought about bring your study and doctrine to America and educate the young people there because they need you there? The way you talk is like, for me, more like a socialist doctrine, you know, socialist. But a lot of countries, if they want unity, they have to become asylum seekers or refugees in another nation. Just like because a lot of women and children got rejected from education. So for me, education somehow has limit capacity to train or teach young people, women and children to have, you know, ideas about unity. Because at the moment, you see conflict is everywhere. And the roles of women have been moved backward. From most of the countries, the equality of men and women are not as good as should be, because we've been striving for the equality of human being 100 years, and we got nowhere now. So what I'm saying is, your research and study should be brought into a nations that most polarized, divided countries politically and, you know, economically, financially, everything, class struggle. Because like a French Revolution, they talk about fraternity, brotherhood, that your Baha'i people believe in brotherhood and harmony. But the French Revolution, before they can reach unity, they got to have revolution first. So they have to have riots first. You know, like kill Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, for example. So it's very simple ideas that I just suggested that your study will be needed in some, what they call, capitalist countries.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you
Dr.
so much for the suggestion. Thank you.
Yes, Siva, can you please
Thank
have
you.
a question?
Thank you, Absun, for this wonderful presentation. And thank you, Panya, for introducing Absun for this talk. I think it is a very illuminating presentation. As Jung suggested, it's not only for this confined group of people, it should be a worldwide awakening. But it is, you have done so much of research and very academically presented, but you brought it to the level of children, and I am like a child learning. I had a question, you know, that the triangle knowledge, awareness, and skills that you showed for consultation as a concept, the awareness part of it, I don't know, you might have explained, but I didn't catch it. How do we bring that the awareness part of it? the knowledge, maybe we can explain consultation and skill probably by practicing and learning from that. But how do we bring the awareness part of it? Could you please explain?
Thank you for the question. Yes, consultation is actually a very interesting concept. My talk was not really targeting consultation, so I didn't really talk about that. What we had was, however, the fact that consultation is an important skill to learn about unity. And what I suggested was an activity that I did with my 14-year-old students, 13 and 14-year-old, which actually targeted this concept of consultation. So I can actually, based on this activity, give you the 3 elements that are embedded in this activity. I hope that would answer your question. So in this activity and this activity alone, the awareness part comes from the fact that you let the class, your students, to make mistake, and you make sure that you don't help them in order for them to feel the loss. When they didn't hear or listen to someone in their group, they lost. And the whole group lost because they missed that point of view of one person who was a quiet person. That is an awareness. Through this game, they come to this level of awareness that it was my own loss. Even though I was talking and I was enjoying, because I didn't listen, I didn't seek to understand other people, it's my loss. That is not just knowledge, but also awareness in the sense that it has a feeling to it. It has a hefty feeling of my loss. And that creates awareness. So of course, then skill is how do you put up your hand when you want to suggest, you wait for your turn. These are the skill parts. And then the knowledge is how do you do that? You choose a facilitator, you choose a person who will help everyone take turn. This is the knowledge part. So the awareness comes from that feeling of loss in this particular game. But if you do wish a more elaborated lesson on consultation, then this is the book I suggest.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And may I ask, friends, because many of you are fasting, and so be brief with your questions or comments. Thank you very much.
Ahmad, please ask your question. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I actually don't have a question. I just want to comment. First, I have to say that was a beautiful talk, and I gained a lot of knowledge out of it. The other thing is that this morning on the news, but I don't know, you're in Malaysia, but the guys that in Australia must have seen the news. And in the news, they were saying that a teacher has organized a new way of teaching because the youth were kind of isolated because of COVID, and they wouldn't go to school, and the rate of going to school was lowered in the last few years. And they designed a new way of teaching, which is not a classroom. Everybody can come and sit, do whatever they want to do. And they do exactly like you, putting that different pieces of giraffe and then ask them to put things together and this sort of thing. Maybe this is the pattern that of teaching that we have to follow in the future in order to have a better education.
Thank you for sharing. That is true. It's a phenomenon around the world, the post-pandemic and its impact on the students. It's beautiful. I didn't know this happened in Australia. I will look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. TK. Yes.
I'm not a doctor, I'm just TK. Anyway, Afsun, thank you so much. You know, we have so accustomed to the way of living that we don't even see ourselves as what you have seen. You're really a very astute observer of the multicultural community in Malaysia. Now, in response to Jung's statement, really, you know, what she says is very true. And following what Afsun said, that we need educators. And you find that in the ages throughout the world, you find all the educators right through. And Baha'u'llah is the educator for this modern age. And what he says is that, no, the purpose of justice is the appearance of unity amongst men. So that is the concept which we have to have, that once we understand that we are one, that we belong to the same household. We see things differently. And when she mentioned about the lady, the freedom writers, and it's a beautiful concept which has been translated into action to see for themselves that we have the same issues, we have the same shares, the same problems, and we desire the same things. And that's where that comes about that unity. So once we have that vision of unity, that vision of common cause, we are able to bring about a world, a different world together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I'd like to say a few words here. I'm Kanta here. Thank you very much for such a nice practical presentation. Just like you, I have been an educator for many years, so I can kind of share whatever you've shared with us. It's very close to my heart. The one point that you raised about is unconscious bias, and I think it's a very important point, because more than often we are blind to our own blindness, and this requires kind of a constant reflection of our own selves. To what extent am I being just? What are the hidden biases that are within me? So I think this is a point that we have to look into and probably find ways to kind of raise consciousness about our own biases, because we think we are just. We think we are. I'm free from bias, but yet in many ways we may be blind to our own bias. And I'm very keen on that test that you mentioned. I'll definitely have a look at it. Thank you very much.
Sure. I personally had fun with the test because it's a fun test, actually.
Would you ask other friends if they have something to say before we close? But I thank Dr. Afson. Really, I loved it. I am going to watch it a few times to learn a few skills with my grandson. I think how to make them aware of their, what they
I
do.
hope we can get the recording of this session so that we could share it with others. I think it's a very practical thing. So with mothers and other teachers.
It's already, it's live streamed in YouTube, and the link was on the poster that we sent out. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, I've done the notes. What you've said is already copied down as notes for me, for my learning.
You're a good student.
And if you, is it okay to share your PowerPoint, Afson?
Yes, of course. I can share the PowerPoints, of course.
So
I can't take credit of most of the things because I just take them off from other educators. So they are not mine.
Yes. So, I think it is very vital, because you have gleaned from the various sources, and that is very important for our society now, whether they are children or adults, matured, whether they are academics or whatever profession they are. So useful. The wider that we circulate, even if they get at least a part of it, to put them into practice, I think the goal of making this world a better world can be achieved. So if you share, I will share with those wherever I send. I already have put some of those slides I captured screenshot into our interfaith group, as well as on the Facebook, already there, the link. Any other comment?
Yes, absolutely. Whatever it is, you have assembled beautifully the slides and give a beautiful narrative of it, and we understand so much from your presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tina.
Spina would like to say something, and then Young, when is writing.
Yes.
You're muted if you're talking, Miss Spina.
Unmute. Okay. Yes, I have put my opinion about awareness. We're talking about awareness, so it has to start from myself that who am I? Why am I created? What is the purpose of this life? So as in the writing, the Holy Writing, it says that we have to bring ourselves to account each day. And in our actions, let's contemplate whether it is acceptable in the sight of God. We have to weigh our actions, our deeds in the scale of divine teaching. That's why it is important to immerse ourselves in the ocean of the teachings of God so that we can become familiar and it will shape our character and it transforms us. And let's be aware every day, actually. Bring yourself to account each day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yon, would you like to say you? Thank you, Pina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fanayon. I think your lecture for me is comprehensive. However, if unity is so good, and the prophets and God love unity, why the education will refuse for the, if I'm not wrong, the social media and the TV and all the radios been talking about some women in some countries and children have not accepted to go to the university or to go to accept an education or to be equal with men because of some of the religion that they believe in. So therefore, what I'm saying, if the unity is so good, why God doesn't open a path for them to move on in a sailing boat, like easy way, but put so much, impediment, like obstacle for them. So if they want unity, or they want happy life, not oppression, then they got to move to another country or take in refugee status or asylum seekers. I'm not mentioning any nations, but if you look into the refugee status and asylum seekers, and you study about unity, that's what you have to embark on. At the moment, the role for this lecture are too far easy. I'm so easy because we haven't tackled everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Yon.
Thank you so much. Let me rephrase your question to make sure that I understand the point that you're bringing. So what you're saying is that if unity is the purpose of creation, if God is promoting this unity and equality and justice, then how is it that in some nations and under the name of religion, actually, some religions, women and children are deprived of education or justice, social justice in general, so that they have to leave their own country and take asylum in another country? If that is your question, and if I understand it correctly, but first, it is not the topic of today's discussion, really, but the fact that religion have been used and abused by the owners of powers in order to promote their own whatever they wish to do. That is a very sad thing. So whether the religion actually did say that or not, it's a big question. So we need to actually study those religion without bias and really look into it scholarly to see whether it was actually there at all in the beginning, or it was that just some group of leaders find a religion as a force, which is because religion is a force of society, is a very strong force, right? So they use this force to promote their own wishes, unfortunately, which is, they get power, they get money, and they can use whatever they wish with very little morals in it involved. So again, we need to look into it without bias against any religion and look deep into the religion itself, whether it was actually mentioned in any of the scriptures, in any of the holy writings, that women were not supposed to study.
Yeah, I'm a Catholic, so what I'm saying, the one that Jesus mentioned or the Bible mentioned is charity begin at home. So if the charity begin at home, if the boy can study, why the why the girl not allowed to study in some countries, in some religions, because they believe in something. So charity begin at home is one of the basic concepts and been followed. I mean, if people think they are scholar, one of the basic concepts has been followed. And we talk about interfaith here. Charity begins at home. Why the men are so scared of the women to be educated? Why the men are so scared to bring their children to be educated? Why all the young children have to be conscripted to the war to protect the country, keep the peace with other nations by raising the army to defend themselves? Why they do that? Why they divided? The contradiction there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can feel how much you love and care for the women around the world. And this is all I can say at this point, that I feel your love for women and children, and I admire that. There is a movie someone is suggesting that maybe we were talking about good entertainment. Maybe Mr. TK is suggesting to search for PK, an Indian movie with English subtitle for this. All right, thank you for your suggestion.
I'm sure Siva would know about this movie by Amir Khan. It's a lovely movie.
Well,
Yeah, it addresses social issues and religious issues.
we will all watch.
Just because yesterday was an International Women's Day, so therefore I talked to you in a concept of the spirit of development, because you are the educator. So we mentioned about International Day for Women. So I cannot mention each individual nation that discriminated against women or their power or give them empowerment or democracy or whatsoever, because democracy at the moment is shattered. As you know, if you follow social media, you know that. If you hear the parliament debate, you understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Young. And is that enough? Panja, would you like to say your question? Panja, you are muted if you are saying.
Unmute, Panja.
Sorry. First and foremost, I would like to thank Afsun for agreeing to this talk, because it was just over 1 or 2 weeks that I happened to meet her somewhere, and when I heard she's doing education, so I was very impressed. We all need to be educated. That's what I feel. I need education. So are we in the getting the vision of the world? As we were talking, women were not allowed in the past. Children were not given the full education. And there's a lot of suffering in this world. All these are learnings. And that's why we need to learn about the future education and solve most of the problems and bring a peaceful world. First of all, are we having the vision? Are we in the learning mode? And how can we contribute to a better world? That's the part where I learned that there are lots of learnings to be done. And through that, we can contribute. You can be grandmothers, you can be great-grandmothers, you can be mothers, uncles and aunties and grandfathers. But we still need to learn how the world can be a better place and what little contribution you can make. It's a huge problem ahead of us. We read this history and it's terrifying, but how are we going to learn and bring that little change the world needs? And it starts with us. And that's why we are gathered here to learn from each other. The modern educational system, the community building process, how we can feel human to feel the sufferings of others, feel for each other. The sixth sense and the spiritual aspect of humanity is not felt and shared by any one of us. So to me, I still love to learn. And I'm happy today I learned a lot of things, and appreciate the talk by Afsun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Siva, you are the last one, I think, to say something.
Thank you. Thank you, Zore, giving me the opportunity, the last opportunity. I really like to highlight how Afsun has made this presentation in a, it can be given to any audience. They don't have to be Baha'is or they don't have to be religious. To any audience, this is a suitable presentation. So I really appreciate this one. And the whole concept of education for creating and sustaining unity, you used one simple quotation that regard man as a mind rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. You just use one, that's simple quotation and beautifully develop these things. And many of the misconceptions that whether religious or not are because of ignorance. And so can I ask you whether the questions raised why in certain countries this is happening or why God is allowing that to happen? Can I ask you the question whether because the ignorance or they have misunderstood the teachings even by their teachers? So therefore, education is the one that has to be emphasized. Is that right?
Thank you. I think you answered the question that you asked. So I don't think I would need to address that. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yes.
Okay.
So I can add maybe something to this, that it is true that what is going on through the world, and it sometimes can be very overwhelming, that it's so the negative power of destruction is happening all over the world, and it can bring us down. We can use that as a force of motivating ourselves, or we can let it, bring us down and feel unempowered by it. So it's our choice. It's that, again, awareness, the choice that we make, how we're going to use this to push forward, to foster, unity, or in this case, education, to take over the ignorance. And sometimes I ask this from myself. This actually I learned from my supervisor. Every time I would meet him, I had a long list of, oh, this is a problem, this is another problem, education, the Ministry of Education didn't help me, the school didn't do this when I was doing my research. And every single time he was telling me, okay, Afsun, I know you have problems. What are you gonna do about it? And that he role modeled to me a solution focus, a mindset that I have just adopted from him. And for that, I'm really thankful to my supervisor. He passed away last year, may he rest in peace. So I learned that. So, okay, these are all going on. What am I going to do about it right now? That's why we ended this talk today with this question, what are we going to do about this right now? There is something that each one of us can do. Maybe not in our generation timeline. Maybe it takes generation, and education requires time, 3, 4, 5, but we'll keep that hope on, that with us pushing forward and our kids pushing forward and their grandkids pushing forward, it will come a day that ignorance disappears and that unity will establish on earth.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I will read some of the comments and then we will close this meeting because it's already 2 hours since we started. I think TK said that you will observe in the past 100 years, women has advanced significantly in all fields of human endeavor and all departments of life of society. And Colin has commented, thank you, Afsun. I very much appreciated the philosophical part of your presentation too. I think I will agree with that too. And TK again commented, education is of 3 kinds: material, human, and spiritual. Material education is concerned. Is that continuous or?
Yes, continue from there later.
Yeah. Okay. I think I wanted to say that material education is concerned about our health and development of the body, and material human education is about arts and science and administration and the discoveries, and spiritual education is bring the moral and spiritual virtues within human being, and this is more important than anything else. And if we emphasize on that, this world will change gradually. Thank you.
Yeah, women nowadays become astronauts and pilots and all sort of things. Submarine, nuclear power, they will go in all sphere and advanced medicine. So I'm aware of that. But are we talking about the privilege, or we are talking about the people who really need help? That is a different issue.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much. I just thought I said one more thing. I love the triangle of knowledge, skill, and awareness. And I feel that awareness is the main part. Everybody has got too much into knowledge and skills, but awareness that we just see what we feel and how are the other ones around us are feeling, or what is their situation. That's something that we have to always consider in everyday things we do. I think it's finished.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You all.
Thank you.
Ave Maria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.